Really devoted to highlighting stories of hope and success in our food and agriculture systems. And we do this with the aim to inspire, motivate, and ultimately activate positive transformation in how we produce and consume food. Before we begin this wonderful program, raise your hand if you've seen Wicked on Broadway, or the movie. Well, who you just saw, Celia Hottenstein, plays Glinda on Broadway. Please give her a round of applause. It's amazing. We're so honored. And she was joined by her husband, Travis Tabor, who plays Fiyero in Wicked. And they met on Wicked in 2019 and then met and got married. It's like the cutest love story of all time. Let's give that a round of applause. And Celia and Travis were accompanied by Ryan Fielding Garrett, who was the music director from, not very well-known shows like Hamilton, Kinky Boots, and Mean Girls. So please give him a round of applause. So over the next week, we're going to be making connections between regenerative agriculture, farmland conservation, preventing food loss and food waste, nutrition education, technology and innovation, and resilience. And we will be highlighting how our global food and agriculture systems can really be a key solution to the climate crisis. This week, we will have 15 summits with more than 300 speakers and performers, 7 US members of Congress, and 15 food and agriculture journalists from major news outlets. These are people who are working to make sure that climate and food and agriculture are all connected during Climate Week, because in the past they haven't been. These are people like you who really feel like food can be something that nourishes us all, but also helps save the planet. The food and agriculture landscape looks very different than when I was on this stage last year. The policy environment is very different. And there are some folks who are really excited about the changes that are being made, especially at Health and Human Services. People are energized by what RFK Jr. is attempting to do. And many people are excited about what Secretary Rollins at the US Department of Agriculture is trying to do. And other agencies are seeing a lot of overhaul, like EPA and the State Department. But there are a lot of folks that aren't so happy about this. And as I live in Maryland, my senator, Angela Also Brooks, recently told me in an interview that the Trump-Vance administration is wreaking intentional chaos. To be clear, Food Tank is a nonpartisan organization. We really pride ourselves in being in the center. And Bernie and I always joke, my co-founder and I always joke, that when both the right and the left are mad at us, we're doing the right thing. But I want to give you a sense of what's been happening since January. Trump pulled the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization, and he wasted little time in dismantling the US Agency for International Development, canceling life-saving food aid and health programs. Boston University estimates that by the end of June, more than 330,000 people, including almost 225,000 children, had died globally as a result of these cuts. And a recent study published in The Lancet estimates that by 2030, we may lose an additional 14 million lives because of the administration's actions. We are also seeing cuts to programs that support local food procurement for food banks and schools, source crops from US farmers for international food aid, and support research on diet-related diseases, which now affect about half of all Americans. Some of this is very dizzying. Some of it is very sad, especially to me. It's hard to keep up with, and I think that's by design. None of us can keep track, whether we are Republican or Democrat or anyone in between. What I have come to understand over these last 9 months is that we need to listen. We need to listen to the people we don't agree with. We need to lean into new ideas, into different kinds of leadership, embrace new and unusual partnerships, so that we can take the solutions that we already know work and find ways to scale them. We need to reject violence and hate from wherever it comes, and we need to do this urgently. I was recently speaking with somebody I really admire, a young food advocate, anti-hunger activist, Dion Dawson, who lives in Chicago, and he told me that we are the leaders that we have been waiting for. And Oxford professor of philosophy, William McCaskill, agrees. He says, we are the ancients. Unlike anyone before us, and just like everyone who will come after, we must discover how to live on a full planet. We need to start and be thinking and behaving like we are the future's ancestors, or we won't be. So that's why Climate Week is so important to me, and why it means so much that we've all come together to find solutions. Before we get into the program, I want to thank our amazing partners for making this event possible. A huge thanks to the Lundberg family, especially Brita Lundberg. I love her. I've been fangirling this woman for a long time. Bryce and Jill Lundberg, her parents. Roberta Greenspan. Ben Olberg. And Shelley Price for their continued collaboration. I love working with these people. I also want to give a huge thanks to our hosts here at WNYC, including Ryan Wild and Chase Culpin. Please give them a round of applause. And a big round of applause for our culinary partner, Great Performances, especially Liz Newmark, Janelle Traeger, and Laura Cruikshank for putting together a really thoughtful, delicious menu, and you'll be able to continue to enjoy it at the reception afterwards, so you have to stay because there's more food. I also want to give a big thanks to ARVA for making this event possible. We couldn't have done it without them. Before we dive into the program, just a little bit of housekeeping. Tonight's sessions are meant to be very vibrant and dynamic, and they're timed very closely. So if I cut a panel short, I hope you'll forgive me later. There will be time at the reception and all during Climate Week to continue these conversations. And I hope all of you will share what you're learning and hearing or inspired by or made furious by on social media with the hashtag Climate Week NYC. And you can also feel free to email me directly at Danielle@foodtank.com, and Bernie and I will try to get you back, and we'll try to get back to you in real time. He's always checking my email. You might have noticed when you came in that there were sights and smells and sounds of a farm, and it was a curated for a fully immersive experience that I hope will help ground us during these important conversations. You will also get cover crop seed packets. They should be in your tote bags that you received, so you can support soil health in your own gardens. I plan to take mine back to Baltimore and put them in my backyard. So let's give a round of applause for that. I think it's cool. We're now going to dive into the program, and to kick us off is my amazing partner. I love this woman, I can't tell you. Brita Lundberg, a fourth-generation farmer and the chief storyteller at Lundberg Family Farms. She's the best title of anyone I know. And so, I've been fangirling her for a long time. So Brita, welcome.
Thank you. And it's 100% mutual and then some, I can assure you.
So, as I said, I'm so excited to be with you. I'm wondering if you can talk about why we're focusing this event on the promise of regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, so you might have noticed that we called this evening Hope on a Plate, which was the brilliant idea of my boss, Roberta Greenspan. And the more I thought about it, the more I loved it, because really at Lundberg Family Farms, regenerative agriculture and hope go hand in hand. We exist to grow the highest quality rice using organic and regenerative farming practices because we believe the health of our bodies and our planet depend on it. And that belief goes right back to our roots. In 1937, my great-grandparents, Albert and Frances Lundberg, left Nebraska in the wake of the Dust Bowl. They came to California with their 4 sons, a farmall tractor, a flatbed Chevy truck, and crucially, a new farming philosophy, which was to leave the land better than they found it. In the 1960s, my grandpa Harlan and his brothers, Eldon, Wendell, and Homer, started farming organically. It was, before most people knew the meaning of the word, and including them. But they had a copy of Organic Gardening magazine, so they called up J.I. and Robert Rodale, whose daughter Maria is here tonight. Hi, Maria. I haven't met her in person yet. I'm so excited. And they asked, what is this organic farming all about? And as it turned out, it's a lot like leaving the land better than you found it. So is regenerative organic agriculture. But, that doesn't mean that it's easy.
Right.
They were kicked out of their local rice growers co-op. There were years when they didn't take a paycheck. People called them crazy for trying to do things differently. People still call us crazy to this day for believing that regenerative should start with organic, for believing that regenerative organic can work at scale. But if regenerative is going to be a climate solution, we have to hope for better than the chemical intensive farming practices that got us here, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what tonight is all about. I think that you'll hear from so many people about so many beautiful, delicious, inspiring, regenerative reasons to hope.
Absolutely. And there's so many reasons to be hopeful, but there are so many reasons to feel sort of the pressure of the urgency. I wonder how you personally balance that.
Yeah, for me, personally, when I get overwhelmed by the urgency of it all, by the scale of it all, I think as the Gen Z say, I touch grass, by which I mean I go out to the fields with my dad. We get into hip waders, we get out in the fields, and we remember what it's all about.
We all need to be grounded more, like, literally, right?
Exactly.
And get in touch with nature. I'm wondering, what you're most excited about hearing this evening. What are you anticipating?
Well, I couldn't possibly pick.
It's like picking your favorite kid.
Yeah.
Or crop.
But I think, or crop, yeah, or variety of rice. But I think what I'm most excited about is the breadth of experience and expertise that we will be hearing from tonight. And I think that's really important because it takes all of us, right? It takes all of us to hope for better, to work for better, to leave the land better than we found it. And so I think that tonight's program really reflects the breadth of experience and expertise that is needed to meet this moment.
Thank you so much, Brita, and I want to thank you and your whole family for the leadership that you have shown in this movement. It's really amazing, and it's so intergenerational and so hopeful, so thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Please give Brita a round of applause. I'm now excited to welcome to the stage Jeroen Gerlach, the director of Climate Group's Europe office and the lead on the organization's food systems work. Jeroen, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm a bit shorter than the mic, so I'll try to wiggle a little bit. So yeah, thank you, Brita, and thank you, Danielle, and thank you, whole Food Tank team, for bringing us all together here, and for inviting me to say a few words. It's a true pleasure to be here at Hope on a Plate, surrounded by change makers, farmers, chefs, and visionaries who believe in the power of regeneration, not just of soil, but of systems, communities, and hope itself, indeed. My name is Jeroen Gerlach. I lead Climate Group Europe office from Amsterdam, and I also lead Climate Group's food system work. We are a climate NGO. We're working with corporates and subnationals towards a net zero world by 2050. And we're also the founders and the conveners and the organizers of Climate Week NYC. You might know us best for that, actually. This is our 16th edition. And despite or thanks to challenging times, it's promising to be the biggest climate week ever.
Wow.
And I wrote this a couple of days ago. In terms of events, it already is. We have 1,000 events registered for the whole week. Yeah. And that obviously includes events that we organize ourselves as a climate group, events that Food Tank organizes, but many, many, many more. And I have to be honest, and it was referred to a little bit already, for a climate NGO, it took us quite a while to embrace food as a system to work on. You might know Climate Group better for our work on renewable energy, on electric vehicles, and on industry, concrete and steel. In all these systems, we helped shift demand. That's what we do, from downstream upwards towards better alternatives. Why now food? Well, Dani already mentioned it basically, and I think as a climate group, we also realize that all the work that we've been doing in the last 20 years as a climate NGO, decarbonizing many change, if we don't together tackle the food issue, all of that work could be considered useless. And because we realize that what we've been doing in other systems all along is what is still needed so much in the food system as well. And that is that shifting demand. Shifting the way we eat food, shifting the way we produce food. And as a climate group, on behalf of Helen Clarkson, our CEO, and the whole team, we are ready to collaborate. We are ready to set our networks of over 180 subnational governments and over 500 corporates at work to help make that shift. We started collaborating already with ProVeg. One of the ProVeg colleagues is here in the room. We're working with the World Resources Institute and others, but we're really open for more collaboration on food. So let that be an open invitation. And one important first step that we took as a climate group is food was never more prominently featured at Climate Week as this year. It still needs to grow, definitely as a topic, but it's never been as prominent as this year. Dozens of events, sessions and roundtables, tastings, etc. And for the first time in the history of Climate Week, we have an official food program partner, Tilt Collective, the new fund that's making waves in the food space. So tonight, we're here to celebrate one of the most powerful tools that we have to shift that food system, regenerative agriculture. And I probably don't need to tell you, I'm not going to tell you because I'm not a regenerative agricultural expert, but it is more than a method, it's a mindset. It's about working with nature, not against it, and it's about reducing emissions, and as a climate NGO, that is an important focus for us, but also, at the same time, increasing dignity, equity, and resilience. And the numbers speak for themselves. Regenerative agriculture has the potential to offset 20% of global agricultural emissions. Could be even more. There's probably experts in the room that can correct me on that one. Farms using regenerative practices report a 30% increase in crop yields and a 20% boost in profitability. And there's always discussions when we talk about climate issues on profitability and on the economic side of it, and that's important. But we can show with regenerative agriculture that it is possible. And these aren't just statistics, they're signals of transformation. To truly scale regenerative practices, we need to reshape consumer habits, and we need to reshape industry standards. And that means, for instance, encouraging demand for low-carbon, regeneratively produced food, but also empowering retailers and food service companies to prioritize climate-smart sourcing and healthier food. And it means fostering cultural shifts that celebrate seasonal food, local food, and plant-forward diets. When consumers choose regeneratively low-carbon grown food, they send a powerful signal to markets. And when industries respond, they create the infrastructure for change. That's not going to be easy, but we believe that it can be done. And together, this demand can drive investment, innovation, and adaptation at scale. Tonight, the presentation is on stage, and the food on our plates will hopefully tell that story. It's a story of farmers healing the land, of chefs elevating ingredients grown with care, and of communities reconnecting with the soil beneath our feet. It was mentioned, we literally need to do that more. So let's keep asking, what does hope taste like? What does regeneration look like? And how can we together make it the norm, not the exception? Thank you for being part of this movement. Thank you for being here, and thank you for believing in shared possibility. And thank you for putting hope on every plate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for creating a space for us all to come together. This couldn't happen without you. Thank you. Please give him another round of applause. I am now extremely excited to have a fireside chat with Dan Barber, who needs no introduction, but let me try. A chef, author, the co-owner of Blue Hill and Blue Hill at Stone Barns, and the founder of Row 7 Seed Company, whose vegetables have been growing in my garden all summer long. Please give him a round of applause as he hobbles up here. Poor friend. I'm so sorry.
Now, there we go. That's perfect. Look at that. See, you can't ask me the hard questions now because I got your sympathy, and it's going to be softball city.
You usually ask me the hard questions that I can't answer. Before Dan and I dive in, I want to thank some of our in-kind partners, including Organic Valley, Certified Origins, Farmers Gin, and Little Sesame. So please give them a round of applause. So, it's nice to see you, first of all. It's been a minute.
Hello.
Good.
I'm not going to get up and hug you.
No, after. So, Dan, the theme of tonight is hope
You're
on
not going to ask me how this what happened. You're not.
Yeah,
gonna say,
I
okay.
mean, yeah, I don't know if you want to share.
I was in a knife fight in a bar. I've always wanted to say I was in a knife fight in a bar.
But you had a knife
But
fight
you
with
know, you
yourself.
started laughing. You know that's not true. Because I'm a
dropped a
I'm a
knife on your
Jewish
foot.
kid from the Upper East Side, and you know that I wouldn't be in a bar fight. I'd be the first one running out. No, I dropped a knife on my foot, and I had surgery yesterday, and it's okay. No, it's okay.
And he
It's-
still came to this
no,
event.
it's you know what it is. I've never been on. I've never had this happen. Anything like
Yeah.
it. So it's. I'm trying to feel a larger message here, which I think I've gotten over the last 2 days. Which is so we had all these events, and my fear is actually sort of realized, which is I'm totally not needed in the kitchen.
That's not true.
Yeah, no, it's true, and that's what it's part of the upset is that I'm gonna be discovered to be I'm not indispensable is what it is, and so that's a good lesson for me
I've been learning
and
that
for
lesson
everybody.
too.
Everybody, yeah.
The food tank team doesn't need me, so
Yeah.
I feel you. All right, let's center
Let's get to work.
ourselves
Yes.
on what this conference is about. So the theme of tonight is hope on a plate, and I feel like eaters, consumers often feel like they have to sacrifice something, deliciousness, if they're going to eat sustainably and for the planet and for, eat for the climate. Can you talk about why that, that's a misnomer? That's a mistake. You don't have to sacrifice anything.
Did you say you have to eat deliciously or you don't? I'm sorry. What was
No,
the
like
thing?
I think eaters think that to eat sustainably, it can't be delicious. At the
Yeah,
same
well,
time.
I grew up with that ethic. I don't know how many. I mean, I'm going to age myself now, but that's how I grew. Like you had to force good food down, right?
Right.
It's ridiculous. We all know that was the '70s. It was a dark spot in the culinary landscape, as it were. No, deliciousness and nutrition and I think ecological health. They're all aligned. They're all the same thing.
Yeah.
That's my learning. That's as I get older.
And that's what led to Row 7 in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
Talk
Delicious.
about that journey.
The journey was like I was an evangelist for old stuff, like heirlooms and heritage everything. I was the big proselytizer for it. And then what happened? Well, I think Jack, is that you out there, man? Or somebody looks just like you? Jack Algier is the founding farmer at Stone Barn Center for Food and Agriculture, amazing farmer. And my great teacher, and he invited a squash breeder to Stone Barns. This very interesting up and coming squash. What did I know about up and coming squash breeders, seeds? I knew nothing. And he came into the kitchen after dinner. I was very late at night, and I said I was very awkward. I'm usually, as you know, I'm very awkward. But I said, like, if you're such a great squash breeder, why don't you breed a butternut squash that actually tastes good? Mm-hmm. Why are we always told like to add butter and maple syrup and brown sugar to make the thing? Every recipe.
Sure.
I was kind of kidding, but
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was very serious and said the reason I've never bred a butternut squash tastes good is because no one's ever asked me to breed for flavor. And I always say like that was sort of a before, like the
Yeah.
curtain went down. It was a before and after moment because up until that time, first of all, who was he talking to? That was the first thing. Who are you talking to?
Right.
Obviously not chefs.
Right.
And you learn very quickly you're talking to the industry. The industry cares about size, shape, color, shelf life, yield, obviously a big one. And so flavor is on the hierarchy of things very low. And what I've learned through this education in seeds is that if you're selecting for all those things I mentioned, you're selecting against flavor and nutrition. Flavor and nutrition run along the same genetic lines for most vegetables and grains. So that goes back to your first point, is that the opposite of this idea that, you got to choke down delicious, flavor and nutrition. You have to choke down nutrition to get to be fed well. So that opened up this whole. Jack actually ended up trialing a variety from this man, Michael Mazurek. I fell in love with a bunch of the trial varieties. One of them in particular, you're going to taste the next generation. Oh, you're saying no to it? Oh my God, you can't say no to this thing. You can't. No, you cannot say no. There's nothing in it. I just want you to know. Is there any allergies? It's just squash. We put squash in the oven this morning for like 3 hours, and we put a puree on it, and now I'm giving it to you. Unplugged. This is as naked a squash as you get. Yeah. Okay. So this is because Jack took a risk with this trial. Of a butternut squash that actually tasted good, that this guy Michael Mazurek created. We developed a relationship, and what you're eating is like the next generation of that incredible breakthrough development, which is a butternut squash that tastes good. He took a butternut squash that tastes good and married it with one of my favorite Japanese varieties, this dry matter squash. It's really intense flavored. The love child of that is what you're eating. I just want you to know one other thing. That love child that you're eating was rejected by every single distributor and major marketplace in the United States of America. And I know, right? Boo to that. And that is, so what we did, Jack and I and a lot of chefs and farmers around the country is advocate for deliciousness, actually, because as we all know, flavor is like under siege in this country, and to put that out there, first and foremost, the fact that it's organic seed is part of what makes that taste delicious. It's grown organically. We can talk about all that all along the chain. It's the most democratic and the most exciting potential for genetics for our future, and it yields incredibly well. We yielded last year 770,000 pounds on both coasts. It was double the expectation. It is now sold in every region of the country, in major supermarkets all the way to farmers markets. And the reason that happened is not I had so little to do with it. It's incredible. Jack took the introduction and did the amazing thing of trialing that variety, that first variety, the mother of what you're tasting. Hey, is there more coming around? Because I had enough for everybody. Has everyone tasted it? Yeah. Oh, you all tasted it. Okay. When? I did. That was quick.
They did a good job.
It's right. And so that's what happens when you're selecting for flavor. And I think the original recipe starts with the seed.
I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the relationship you had with Jack and the breeder. And you're a chef, but you're also a great thinker. How did that work? How did the relationship between the three of you sort of come to row 7?
It came to row 7 because it yielded well, very, very well in the field, or relatively impressively, and then the flavor was just drop on. And that's when I would get back to why I was evangelist for the flavor, for the old seeds, because that's where flavor is.
Sure.
But actually, what I have come to understand, the reason I'm trumpeting. It is kind of like my baby, my third child here, because the yield is so impressive, and the fact that it's in every region of the country is amazing. But the idea that I was a proselytizer and evangelist for old seeds is, actually, looking back at it, I feel embarrassed about it because it's very elitist. Actually, old seeds don't perform well. They are very expensive, and farmers have to charge a lot of money for them. They're very risky agronomically, as they say in the trade. And what Jack's introduction to this guy, Michael Mazurek, got me to realize, that before and after moment, was this idea that modern breeders could take old genetics and modernize them without GMOs, without CRISPR, without any of that crap. Just the stuff our great-grandparents were doing, but they can do it very quickly. They're not shooting in the dark. They can do it in a couple of years and produce something that you just tasted. And then improve on it, which is actually what you tasted is the iPhone 2.0, And every year we're going to roll out improvements, both in yield, in disease resistance for organic farmers, and in flavor, and in storability. All of it can be done. It just needs the investment. And nobody's investing in that. In the last 75 years, nobody's invested in that, honestly. Nobody is investing in seed that is bred for organic farmers. So if all of us were to leave here and go to the supermarket next year, your organic supermarket, and you're buying organic vegetables, 90% of what you're buying organic vegetables is conventional seed. That means it's seed that is brought into the world with chemical cocktails, so it's weak, and then it's thrown to an organic farmer because there's now a big organic community that's willing to pay a little bit more. And then we all complain that organic farmers can't compete with conventional. It's so crazy. It's like you're farming with one hand tied behind your back. So I started the organic seed company because I wanted to bring the seeds into the world like Rambo into the world. They are facing the elements and they are doing what you just tasted. They are strong plants. They do not need chemical cocktails to exist, and they yield incredibly well. And that is the future of food if we're willing to invest in it.
And I love, yes, absolutely. And I love that you've democratized this because I get these seeds every year. I grow those beets, I grow those habanero peppers. Like, it's very democratized what you've been able to do here. They're not that expensive.
That's right. That's the whole, as I'm getting older, I'm in a, I have to be careful about democratization because I'm a white tablecloth chef at a very expensive restaurant. I admit that. And I have a lot to say as a proponent of high-end fine dining restaurants to setting a stage for conversations that otherwise wouldn't be set. But I also realize that, the vectors all point at a very rarefied audience. And it is such an incredible opportunity now through this education in seeds and this idea that we can point the vectors out and we can democratize this. And there is no reason that everyone in America couldn't enjoy what you're enjoying right now. Right. There is really no reason. The fact that the industry has had 75 years investing in chemical agriculture is the only reason. And it's a rigged game. And we can change it, actually, but it has to start with seed.
You talked a little bit about innovation and technology, but you're not dismissive of all technologies. I wonder how you see AI and other innovations helping Row 7 and other seed breeders do this kind of work in a way that is sustainable and regenerative and can continue to democratize.
I'm not a Luddite at all. You know, like I'm as wonderstruck as all of us on new technologies. I just haven't seen a lot of them out there in the world of seeds and actually in farming and agriculture that produce anything delicious to you. I don't see it. So there is old world wisdom that can be speeded up with technology that I really applaud, and that's what you're tasting. That's why it's called the Kogi nut squash, just to put a plug in for the name. The Kogi nut squash was developed in just a few years. That what you just tasted would have taken our grandparents a lifetime, if they were lucky. They were stabbing in the dark. So you can now follow the genetic traits in ways that we couldn't imagine, no one could imagine 30, 20 years ago even. So that kind of technology feels empowering. The technology that is one owns, the patenting, the genetic modification, and it's not this isn't a Republican Democratic thing. It's not and I really swear it's not about trying to go back to our grandparents. I've been arguing for looking forward. I just don't see those technologies as actually being fair in the end. You know, they're exciting, but they end up being owned by very few. And who the hell needs a food system where even fewer people own what we eat? Right now, 65% of our seed supply, which is our food supply, not in this country, but in the world, 65% is in the hands of 4 companies. I just got the chills saying it myself. I'm giving myself the chills. 4 companies, and all 4 of those companies are chemical companies. So if 4 companies control our food supply, and they're all chemical companies, what incentive do those companies have to produce what you just tasted? Nobody makes money on seeds. I can tell you, I own a seed company. That's not the way to make the money. The way to make the money is on the intervention. It's the chemical. It's the package. And that's where all the investment goes, and it's a lot of investment. And the payoff is you get this, the seed is the Trojan horse into the farm. And then everything else that comes with it is the payoff. And that's why I say it's a rigged game. It's totally unfair. And what we need to do to rise up against it, really, is to go through flavor and deliciousness like that. I really think, I'm making it obviously too simplistic because there's so many roadblocks everywhere you look. And the power, the concentration of these companies is frightening. But then you taste something like that went from zero, from an idea, to 780,000 pounds in every region of the country overnight. So, we can complain about the American food system because there's a lot to complain about, American food culture, because we don't have much of a food culture. But when something tastes good and it's hedonistic and pleasurable, people actually kind of die for it. And we change gears in America with food culture with dizzying speed. So that's a positive. You don't find that in Japan.
Right.
In France and Italy, like in America, we change habits quickly,
Right.
And we're willing to pay a little bit more for something that is truly good.
Well, you mentioned investment earlier, and investment is needed to sort of further this along. We can change what we invest in. You can have longer term thinking, and I think people come together during Climate Week to talk about, finance for climate resilience, finance for food and agriculture solutions. What do you want investors in the finance community to hear?
Are we my investors or
No, investors in general.
Yeah. I'll tell you, in row 7, I've got a dream, and so that's why I'm free to speak like this crazy talk. It's like I need, I have people who are patient, and I have people who know a lot about food and really wanted to change,
Right.
and see that in a biological world, which is the world we live in, not in a technology world, in a biological world, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
And although I come back to the kogi nut, which is at a long time, that's a pretty good ROI on an investment, actually, if you look at it that way. But what do I want? What I want investors to feel is what all of us feel, which is the long-term health and well-being and fairness of food and flavor and nutrition is in the hands of the long game. That's the only way to do it. So yeah, I hope there's some investors in here that are thinking that way. I feel like there's some.
I hope so, too.
Some there is, yeah.
Dan, I want to shift gears a little bit. Last week, we lost a visionary leader in the food and agriculture movement. The great farmer and thinker Fred Kirschman passed away, and Stone Barns would not exist without him. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about your work and your friendship with him.
Fred was my biggest inspiration because for how many of you knew Fred in this room and were lucky enough to meet him? Yeah, he was a gentle giant, and I think the strength of Fred's impact was he really farmed. He was the visionary organic grain farmer, biodynamic. He went way beyond organic at a time when no one did it. He really was the trailblazer, and you often say, for those kind of people, boy, that guy was ahead of his time, which is another way of saying he was a very unhappy person. That was not true of Fred. He really lived his life. He was a theologist and one of the smartest guys I've ever met, and put into practice what he believed. And yes, at Stone Barns, when the Rockefeller family was interested in doing something to demonstrate everything that we're talking about, I felt it was important that somebody advocate in a way that I was unable to, actually. And Fred was the perfect conduit to larger ideas and to a long-term vision. What are we doing here that we can look back on in 50 years or 100 years, 200 years, that makes a difference? And he was true to that and extremely influential, and I owe him everything that's happened to me since I met him.
I feel like we all owe him a lot. Let's give Fred Kirschman a round of applause, please. So in the few minutes we have left, I want you to leave a call to action to this audience during Climate Week. This is the beginning. What do you want them to do this week?
I would take a page from Fred, and this, I'm just thinking this off the cuff, but what is the line from, I think it was Mario Cuomo said, you campaign in poetry, right, and you govern in prose. And that's a nice way to talk about what Fred did. His vision was large. It was poetic. It was magical. But his everyday application for himself, he held himself to a very high standard on his own farm, but also with other farmers, was practical and not just influential to others, but meaningful on the ground, acre by acre. So I would like to think at this week that we're kicking off here, that we have in all of us that combo platter, because we need it. we need the people who are on the ground, the farmers are on the ground as always, and we need the poetry, and we need it together in one room. I think this is a choir that sings to the same tune. I get that feeling we're in the West Village of New York, on the stage with you, Danny. But what is the thing? You preach to the choir so they'll sing louder and sing in tune. And that's what we need more of this week as we confront some of the biggest challenges we've ever faced. And I'm thrilled to kick off this week sitting here talking to you. Thank you.
Same. Thank you so much, Dan Barber. I love you.
Thank you.
Bigger round of applause as he hobbles off the stage. Thank you so much. Oh, Dan Barber, what a guy. I want to give Bryce a second to set up here, so I'm going to give a shameless plug for Food Tank. Summits like the one you're seeing tonight are not possible without our grassroots members and our supporters. So if you feel so inclined and want to go to our website and check out foodtank.com/join, if you join tonight at the cultivator, planter, or grower level, you'll get a beautiful cutting board. They're sustainably made. They're really, I use them all the time. You might have seen them in the lobby. So now I can welcome Bryce to the stage. I'm really excited that throughout our Climate Week programming, we have the opportunity to bring farmers on stage to share their stories, something that's often missing from conversations on the climate crisis. So I'd like to welcome Bryce Lundberg, the Vice President of Agriculture at Lundberg Family Farms.
Wow, what a treat to be here. Well, I was going to start with a song. If you know it, please sing along. In the field, the organic rice field, the mallard eats tonight. In the field, the regenerative organic rice field, the mallard eats tonight. Oh fly, oh fly, oh fly, oh fly away. Oh fly, oh fly, oh fly, oh fly away. In the field, the regenerative organic rice field, the mallard eats tonight. Well, I grew up in a small Swedish community in Northern California called Richvale. Richvale is a town of 200. Richvale has one school, a church, a cafe, a co-op, and one industry, rice farming. Richvale didn't have a public swimming pool, and that was a real bummer because it was hot in Richvale in the summer. But there were 3 families that had pools: the Comptons, the Lindahls, and the Thengvalls. And if one of those families didn't accept your invitation to come over and swim in their pool, well, there was Mini Beach. Mini Beach was really an irrigation ditch that was about a 10-minute bike ride west of town. But the cool thing about Mini Beach is it had this blue indoor-outdoor carpet that sat on the ditch bank. Man, that was luxury. Well, growing up in the 1960s was a special time for me. Our family, we would have dinners around the kitchen table every evening, and we would talk. We would have table talk, often about organic farming, and why farming organically was better for people, why it was better for wildlife, why it was better for the planet. Come to find out, other people in Richvale were having a similar conversation because at school I'd hear kids tease, "We know why your rice is brown. You farm it in chicken poop." Or, "Your rice is brown because it's dirty." Well, you know, at that time, there weren't any other organic rice farmers. In fact, most people in our community, they farmed for a massive co-op called Rice Growers Association. And when we started farming organically, Rice Growers Association kicked us out. They said, "You can either farm conventional rice for us, or you can farm organic for yourself." You know, as a boy, I could feel the tension that my parents felt as they made the decision to just farm organically. And, you know, it was it was really fortunate for me that I got to go to food shows with my folks, and to the one in Las Vegas and the one in Anaheim, the natural food merchandiser, and meet customers and hear customers say, "Thank you so much for farming organic brown rice. We love it." Customers like the Fowler brothers, or Michael Funk from Mountain People's Warehouse, or Paul Hawken from Air One. It was just really reassuring that it was the right thing to do, and organic farming became part of me at an early age. I started farming with my brother Eric in 1985 in a little farming partnership called B&E Lundberg. Isn't that great? B, Bryce, E, Eric. You know, that was really fancy. But we had one tractor and a few fields. Eric would drive the tractor all night. I would drive it in the day until the fields were ready to plant. That tractor was a Caterpillar D8 14A. It didn't have a cab. It didn't have a steering wheel. It did have a seat. It had frictions, brakes. It had a throttle and a clutch. And, you know, it got the job done. For me, the biggest challenge in farming organic rice is managing weeds, as it is, I think, for all organic rice farmers. At our farm, we manage weeds with water. We have deep water for controlling grasses, and we dry up the fields for managing the aquatics. My first year of organic farming, I was a bit naive. I thought, hey, let's just put the seed on the ground. We'll put quite a bit of water in the fields, and it'll work. And son of a gun, if the fields just didn't green up. Unfortunately, most of the plants coming through the water were weeds. It was watergrass. That year, we had a little bit of rice, but we had a lot of grass. And I was convinced, determined, that I could do it. The next year, I kept the water deep, really deep. One day, my dad came out, and I think it was on Field 101. Anyway, he said, "Hey, Bryce, your rice is really sick. You got to get the water down, and you got to get the water down fast." Well, that year, I didn't have very many weeds, but I didn't have very much rice either. So we needed to figure it out. And here's the secret. It's the fourth leaf. It's the fourth leaf. It's the fourth leaf. You got to keep the water deep enough, but let the fourth leaf of the rice come out, and you got to keep it deep enough that you keep the fourth leaf of the grass underwater. That's it. It's about 21 days after planting the seed, and the rice will stay underwater for about 48 hours longer than the grass. And you've got to be out in the field. You've got to be out in there, every day, watching the grass and the rice and managing the water. And while you're out there, we might as well admire all the animals that make our fields their home. In the water, there's fish, there's crawdads, there's snakes, there's lots of ducks, and there's lots of shorebirds. And I love the dragonflies that they monitor and fly over the rice all summer long. After 40 years of farming, I am convinced that regenerative organic farming is better for the soil, it's better for people, it's better for the environment, it's better for our planet. Well, today, one of my main jobs is to have the past connect with the future, and I think you saw that today. I'm so proud that my son Anders and my daughter Brita are fourth generation organic farmers, and Brita's here tonight. About 10 years ago, Brita was working at Simon & Schuster here in Rockefeller Center. It seemed like so far away, and it missed her host so much, but wanted her to follow her dream, and her dream involved publishing and storytelling, and that it meant New York City. Today, she is our chief storyteller at Lundberg Family Farms, and I'm so thankful. We spend countless hours out in the fields, checking the rice, checking the grass, and admiring all the multi-species megaplex of life that calls our fields their home. Some of the best parts of our days. Well, today my job is almost done. The past and the present have met the future. We still farm in a little town called Richvale. We farm regenerative organic rice. We still have customers that come up and see us and say, "Thank you so much for farming organic brown rice. We love it." And we're still convinced that farming regenerative organic is better for the soil, it's better for people, it's better for the wildlife, it's better for our planet. And by the way, Rice Growers Association went bankrupt, and we have we have our own pool.
Oh my gosh. Woo! Rice, thank you so much for growing organic brown rice. I love it. And I love a ukulele. Thank you so much. That was great. Give him another round of applause, please. Oh my gosh. I am now excited to welcome to the stage Jason Beekle, the CEO of Whole Foods Market and Vice President of Amazon Worldwide Grocery Stores. Give him a round of applause. He has a lot of Row 7 and a lot of Lundberg in his stores.
I do, and just so honored to be going after Dan and Bryce today.
I know, it's great.
What an amazing event.
It's so good. It's so good to have all these folks together. So, Jason, Whole Foods celebrated its 45th anniversary yesterday. Happy
correct.
birthday.
Yes, thank you very
Round
much.
of applause. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about that journey from the first stores opening in 1980 to where you all are today.
Yeah. Well, I think what's important to call out is like what stayed the same. For us, this was about helping create a place where customers could enjoy the highest quality natural and organic foods. And at the same time, it was helping set quality standards, looking at a purpose and core values. And while sometimes the words have changed over the course of the last 45 years, that has really been the foundation and the ethos of the company. And we sort of look at our role as being the spearhead in being able to help support the movement, especially in the organic industry, helping support climate-friendly agriculture practices like regenerative and organic, to helping just make sure there's better standards in place overall for the animals and our animal welfare standards, looking at sustainable seafood sourcing standards, the work that we are doing to make sure that the worker is taken care of as well as the communities that we support. And so being the tip of the spear and helping lead that change has been part of the journey over the last 45 years. And that continues today as, you know, we now have almost 540 stores, or 539 at the current moment.
Wow.
So
yeah. So obviously Whole Foods has always been interested in organic, but now there's this growing interest in regenerative organic and that kind of certification. What opportunity do you think that presents for retailers like yourself, but also others?
Yeah. Well, one of our goals here, you know, and I mentioned just a bit ago, like we were the tip of the spear in helping support the growth of the organic industry. And actually, one of the other things we're really proud of is we just, you know, hit the 20-year mark of being the first and now the only national grocer who is certified organic. And, you know, for me, that's something we're really, really proud of. But one of the things that we wanted to be able to do is help increase the opportunity for farmers to support the practices that are ultimately going to allow us to protect the future of our food systems. And so what we want to do is let's make the tent bigger. Let's find ways by which we can get more farmers and producers to support the work that we need to do. And I think, you know, how many folks here work for a supplier or farmer that, you know, has focused on organic? My guess is we've got quite a few folks. It's tough. It's, you know, this is years and years and years of work. And what we want to do is incent folks to start taking the steps towards goals like that, and regenerative can be one of those steps. And ultimately, there's steps that go along in the process. You know, I look at, you know, what in my mind, what is the, you know, top position you can be in, which is regenerative organic certified. And we know our friends at Lundberg have helped lead the way there. And not everybody is prepared to get to there on day one. And so the work that we've done has helped ensure that there's standards in place. So all of our suppliers are required to actually have third-party verification in that space and certification. And we have multiple certifiers, so we can cover the breadth of products that we want to be able to carry in our stores. And by, you know, ensuring that there's actually something that stands behind it That's the important step
Right,
here. The
right.
piece that I worry about is if we're in a place where people just start using the word, oh, we're practicing regenerative, we're putting it on our label, and it doesn't
Right,
mean anything.
right.
I worry that it sort of turns into the word natural,
Sure.
which at this point you can
healthy.
throw it on, you can throw it on any label, and it doesn't have to really mean anything.
Right.
And so I think we need to help make sure it stands for something.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's helping serve a purpose, which we want to be able to protect the future of our food system for future generations.
Absolutely. To make it stand for something, the transition takes a while, and I wonder how you help farmers who are trying to transition to organic or regenerative, organic certified, or
Yeah.
regenerative or certified organic.
Yes.
Sorry.
And so I think some of the most important parts here are making sure we're addressing the challenges that come up. First, access to capital
Yeah.
is a major problem in the process. And so we do work with our suppliers in providing things like our local producer loan program, which is helping work with some of our smaller suppliers. We actually help fund and support some of our larger suppliers as well. And then another piece is making sure that we provide the commitment. And so
Yeah.
one of the challenges in this space is, if you're looking for a return on investment here in year one, you're probably not going to get it. Year two, you're probably even challenged. But there's opportunities, and we've seen this with countless suppliers, where they're able to make an investment. It actually becomes more profitable for them over
Right.
the long term. But it
Right.
takes that first step. And so if we can work with these suppliers to create an opportunity where they can have a sustainable business that can be profitable and support the needs of our customers, we can help put some of those commitments out there.
Yeah.
So they know when they have to take that leap and they're looking to get the capital, they've got an assurance that this product is going to actually go somewhere. And so for us, it's finding these win-wins so we
Right.
can help support the change that we want to help bring.
That de-risking is so important. Do you think other retailers will take that on, especially in this economic environment?
Well, from talking with suppliers, this is an area that they've had a lot of challenge with. A lot
Yeah.
of other folks will not, support some of those steps. And if we want to drive change, that's one of the things that we have to be able to do is support our farmers. Like
Yeah.
for them to make this investment, if they don't have an outlet for their supply, it's ultimately not going to be the right business answer for them. And
Right.
if they don't have sustainable businesses, it's not going to put us in the right footing here.
Absolutely. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about this concept of a biodiversity superhighway. Can
Oh,
you
yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, so we recently launched a new program that I'm really excited about, and it builds upon some efforts that we've done for a while around prairie strips, which I'm guessing many of the folks in the audience are aware of. And so the team had the idea of how do we take this and amplify it in a bigger way. So what we're looking to do is actually connect farmlands together. And so we're calling it our biodiversity superhighway. So it's taking the same elements of what you might do with a prairie strip, where you're looking to, help invest and ensure that you're not only promoting biodiversity, but you're looking at the soil health, the water quality. Bryce was talking a little bit about just, the overall ecosystem and how do you support that with all the different living creatures and microbiomes and such. And for our goal here is that it's not just on a, group of fields, but we're actually connecting fields together. And so unlike a highway around the country, which might, as you're putting those in place, might require detours and extra traffic,
Right.
ours are intended to help support biodiversity in a much faster way.
That's so cool. What is the reaction you're hearing from people?
The first reaction was the outreach of suppliers saying, when can we be part of this
Nice,
effort? And so
nice.
it's one of those that, like many projects, we have to figure out how do we make sure we can prioritize, allocate the resources. But this is one that I've had so much excitement from our supplier base and quite frankly, our team members as well.
Nice,
So
nice.
hearing this has been great on that front.
That's great that you have that team support behind it as
Yeah.
well. You and I have talked a lot about the economic benefits of preventing food waste in retail. I'm wondering if you can share some thoughts.
Yeah. Well, for me, food waste is something I'm just really passionate about. And if you address it in the right way, this is one of those examples where you can have win-win-win-win impacts. The reality, today is that we actually have a lot of food that goes to waste. We have a lot of people who are underserved and don't have access to food. And ultimately, we are having a lot of food waste ending up in landfills. And so there's negative impacts that are showing up across the board. And so, our process is first to figure out how do we make sure that we are ordering, producing, working with suppliers so we're not in a situation where we have extra product at the
Right.
end of the day as much as
Right.
possible. In grocery, we all know it can't be perfect, especially if we're dealing with perishable. And so our first step is, how do we find opportunities where we can make sure that the product is still available for human consumption? And so within our business, we found ways to bring programs that are great for customers. Two that I love to talk about. One's called Enjoy Today, where you get 50% off of product that will expire usually within the next few days. And the other is something called Too Good to Go, which is a partnership that we've been working with them on. And again, provides access for customers to buy product heavily discounted that will expire a little bit sooner. And so that's one option. The other one is we have a network of partners we work with across all of our stores to donate the food. And I'm just so proud of this because it allows us to actually help meet underserved individuals, and the partnerships that we've done. Again, we're continuing to find ways to have more and more opportunities to feed more folks that don't have access. And at the last step of it is making sure it doesn't go in the landfill. And so for us, it's been about composting. We've been standing up efforts for animal feed as well. And I'm just so proud of our stores where, you know, they have a goal of putting no food in the dumpster. And in our Williamsburg, for those of you who live in the city here, I always do a shout out to our Williamsburg store because they truly are a no food goes in that dumpster.
Wow.
They are working with their community partners. They're making sure we are composting, and ultimately this can be a positive not only for the business, so we have far less shrink. And so this is an opportunity for us to invest in other parts of our business. And at the same time, we've done something positive for the environment. We've done something positive for our community partners. And as we're working on a lot of the forecasting work and helping make sure we can improve ordering, it's better for our suppliers. Because, I mean, all of you who've been in that spot where we overorder and then all of a sudden there's the lull and there's an underorder, it's inconsistency within the business, and that creates ripple effects as well. So if we do this in the right way, we're going to balance things out and have a great positive impact for all stakeholders.
Yeah, so many win-win-wins.
Yes.
Goes on and on. We often talk about what we gain if we make healthier and regenerative products more accessible to eaters. But what happens if we don't continue pushing for progress? What will grocery store shelves end up looking like if we don't do that?
Well, I mean, first we're going to have I see a massive division that we'll sort of have in that space around just not having some of the access. But if you start to look into the broader future, ultimately, we're not going to have some of the products that we know and love on our shelves.
Right.
And that's the part that actually scares for me. And it depends upon what survey and study that you're sort of looking at in this space. But it's somewhere between the next 50 and 100 years. If we don't do something different from the conventional practices that we are doing today, we're not going to have the nutrient density in our soils that we need to support sustaining our food system. And this is something that I think the average consumer doesn't understand.
Right.
And, you know, we don't just eat because it tastes great. Yeah, Dan was talking earlier about, you know, some of the things we want to make sure that healthy food tastes great, but ultimately our bodies need it. Our bodies need the nutrients. And this is something that, you know, is very concerning if we're not in a space where the nutrients that we're going to need to help support sustaining lives and healthy eating is going to be possible. And so for me, it's not something about the, you know, should we do this? It's a matter of we have to,
Right.
and how do we ultimately make sure that we can be the driving force to support the change. And while there's been some great progress, we still have a long way to go when you look at the efforts that we're up against on some of the conventional farming systems.
Right. And it can't just be producers and retailers pushing for that. We need government leadership on that as well.
And the consumer. So
And
there's
the
a big,
consumer.
so, you know, we have to make sure that consumers understand the importance, realize like we have a burning platform here. And at the same time, you know, we need our elected officials to understand these steps as well and understand why some of our farmers can't support these efforts. And, you know, for me, it's concerning. You know, every year we are losing more and more farmland. We are losing farmers. And ultimately, we're not making as fast a progress as we need to address the challenges in this space.
So, Jason, while we want eaters to make different decisions, they are confused and they are in precarious economic times. So I wonder how you sort of balance that, you know, accessibility, availability, you know, all of the choices that they have to make when they're like just scooting through a Whole Foods for 30 minutes at the end of the day.
Yeah, and one of our goals as Whole Foods is figuring out how do we continue to support the highest quality, but ultimately bring value into the equation as well. And this has been a really conscious effort over the last several years. Over the last 18 months, we've reduced prices on 25% of the items in our store. 1,000 of those have been on our 365 products. So our goal is helping, you know, get a great opening price point so we can provide greater accessibility. And what I'm so proud of is we get story after story of customers who discovered us not realizing, I can feed a family of 4 on a limited budget, and we can eat high quality, great tasting food. And that's been an exciting, thing that we've really seen, and some growth potential in bringing more customers into Whole Foods. And I think our challenge needs to be, as an entire industry, finding ways that we can continue to push on quality and value.
Right.
And I think, we're going to be in this situation here where, in certain cases, folks will have to make decisions of what do I do, around balancing different parts about my business. I just challenge everybody, let's not cede on quality. Let's continue to make sure that the great work that we're doing, especially as it relates to climate smart agriculture practices, we're not pulling back on that just to bring a lower price point.
Absolutely. Jason, I'm trying to ask everyone to end on a call to action. So you have eaters in the audience, you have academics, you have investors, you have businesses like yourself. What do you want folks to do when they when they leave Climate Week on Friday?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that a term that we use at Whole Foods Market is called committed action. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we do after meetings, after events, and we help memorialize some things. And one of the things that I would challenge all of you to do as stakeholders that are part of our food systems is figure out, we all get together here and it's fun to talk and learn, but what are we going to do starting tomorrow so when we come back in 12 months, we can talk about the change that we've been able to help support and sustain. And I will say, it's events like this where our teams come back, and that's where our biodiversity type of product, it's how can we take prairie strips and elevate it? So it's taking the things that you're doing today, but we collectively are going to have to work together to continue to support the change that we need to drive to protect the future of our food systems. And so I always look at these events as sort of the point, as our calling action and our opportunity to work together. And it's not just the retailer, it's not just the farmer or the CPG company, it's all of us that have to work together.
Yeah.
And we have to ensure that our consumers, our customers understand why this work is important. We need to work with our elected officials and help explain why these challenges are out there and they're real and what's going to happen if we don't do something about it. And then we together have to stay unified in making sure that we can continue to move the ball forward in this space.
Great call to action. Thank you so much. Please
Thank you
give
so
him a
much
round of
for having
applause.
me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. In this next conversation, we're going to talk about the partnerships and collaboration that we need to create a regenerative future. Joining us, we have Greg Swartz, a farmer at Willow Wisp Organic Farm. Give him a round of applause. Camilla Marcus, a chef, author, and the founder and CEO of Westbourne. Give her a round of applause. Paul Lightfoot, the general manager at Patagonia Provisions. Round of applause. And Suzanne Sengelman, the Chief Growth Officer for Lundberg Family Farms. Please give her a round of applause. So, Greg and Paul, I want to start with you both, if that's okay. Regenerative is being thrown around a lot. It's being thrown around a lot by companies like Bayer, for example. And I'm wondering how we can, make sure that the benefits of regenerative agriculture, true regenerative agriculture, are understood, and that people understand the benefits for farmers, for the land, for wildlife, for all the things that we've already been talking about, so that it doesn't just become a buzzword, that it is actually something true that we can believe in.
Paul?
If I could have asked you to ask a question, it might have been that one. So I'm amazed that you started with that. There is a lot of bullshit in the world.
Mm-hmm. Hear, hear.
There is a lot of use of the word regenerative, and I hear people say all the time, "Oh, it's too bad there's no definition of regenerative." Well, that's not true. The Regenerative Organic Alliance established a definition in 2018, and it's super clear. It starts with organic, and it adds regenerative practices on top of that. And I think everybody that feels like they're in this fight to save the world from the climate crisis in food just needs to just look at their supply chains and think about things. If you have conventional agriculture and you add some good practices to it, cover cropping or less tillage, those good practices are a great idea, and we should incentivize them, we should reward them, but they don't make it regenerative. The word regenerative means it would regenerate. It could keep going forever. It's not based on extractive resources. Conventional agriculture starts with synthetic fertilizer made from natural gas. It almost doesn't matter what you add to that. It's
Right.
inherently not regenerative, right?
Right.
If you're using chemical pesticides and natural gas, you may use the lowercase r regenerative,
Right.
but you're stealing the halo from the farmers, like the farmers we're hearing from and
Yeah.
working with that are doing
Yeah.
things the right way. I think it's shameful. So I think that when Bayer talks about their regenerative practices, or Unilever talks about their 50,000 hectares of regenerative soy for their mayonnaise, yeah, I think it's bullshit.
Thanks, Paul. Good, well said. Greg.
Well, it definitely is. It definitely is bullshit, and I'm actually surprised by this question because I was thinking I was going to have to not talk about this tonight, and so for me,
Sorry, Greg.
no, meaning I was going to have to try to not bring it up, but so I'm glad to. So there's a challenge that we have in terms of language, and there's a challenge that we have in terms of labeling, and there's a challenge that we have in terms of certification regimes. I've been certified organic for 15 years, and I often get the question, does it mean anything, right? And so we have to talk about what certification means. So when I talk to my customers or talk to consumers about my organic practices, I'm talking about them basically in pre-2002 terms, meaning before the USDA defined what organic is. And the history of that certification regimes, that used to be decentralized certification organizations all over the United States that was actually formed by farmers. Farmers would inspect each other. Farmers would come up with what the standards were. And then we had the move of the organic community to approach the federal government in 1990, and then over a 12-year period, it became a federal law. And a lot of people were unhappy about it. And a lot of people were happy about it because it actually became a national platform and a word that, to some degree, was understood by the vast majority of Americans. We're now in a curious place where this R word is here. And I'm confused about how we actually speak to consumers about what it is. Organic was regenerative. Is it now? That's a really big question.
Yeah.
So I think that part of the conversation has to become, what is a certification regime that is actually going to work? Yes, there are many out there now. And in fact, probably by the time I'm done talking, there's going to be another certification regime. And I think the profound danger we have is confusing customers, consumers, about what we're really talking about. So yes, there are specific definitions of what regenerative means. How are we going to use that to elevate the marketplace and incentivize the change on the production side? That's a big challenge.
Thank you. Let's stay on that confusion sort of angle for a minute. And I'm wondering if Camilla and Suzanne, you want to comment on that? Because I feel like, my friends are confused and they know what I do for a living, but they don't understand all of these certifications. Can both of you speak to that?
My family is confused.
Right.
I work for here, yes.
Right.
So I'm honored to work for Lundberg, and I'm not a farmer, but I did stay at the Hilton Garden Inn. But my job is really, my role at Lundberg is kind of the easy thing. I mean, I'm just here to drive growth, and to drive growth with consumers and retailers ultimately. And you're so right in terms of consumer confusion. We just adopted regenerative organic certification, I want to say about 2.5 or 3 years ago. And it was because of our friend Jason at Whole Foods. Mm-hmm. And they came to us, Roberta Greenspan, who named this Hope on a Plate, which I just learned tonight. Yay, Roberta. And we had a meeting with Whole Foods, and they said, we really, we want you to investigate this regenerative organic thing. And again, the Lundbergs had been farming in an amazing, beautiful way since 1937, but honestly, we had never heard of it. So we started out and we launched one product. I think it was maybe February 2023 or something. We just put one product in shelf with Whole Foods. It was a regenerative organic basmati. And we split the votes, which is another thing that happens. By that, I mean, we had an organic basmati on shelf next to the regenerative organic. So votes were split. At the same time, the sum of the two was far greater. So the next year, we said we really wanted to elevate all of our products to regenerative organic. We were in the amazing position of again, due to the farming practices of the Lundbergs, we didn't have to do anything different. We just actually had to get the ROA and the certifying body, to come out and look at our soil standards and our wildlife standards and our social welfare standards. So we certified everything to regenerative organic. And then it was time to take it to the marketplace. And there was actually this funny story. We were working with an outside company that does all the modeling of how much business you're going to get and pricing elasticity and all the stuff that we're supposed to understand. And they were telling me when they did this modeling, they said, Suzanne, a packaging change. We've never really seen it generate growth. And like the fourth time they called it a packaging change, I said, if you call like regenerative organic certification and elevating our brand a packaging change, again, like we're gonna have a fight. So the good news is when we actually took about 80% of our line to regenerative organic. Now, having said that, we kept both certifications side by side on the label. It said regenerative organic as well as organic. Mm-hmm. And our business, from a velocity standpoint, immediately picked up like 8 to 10%. But what we did see from a consumer standpoint, for now, we need those two certifications.
Got it.
Because organic still means something special, although organic tends to mean like herbicide-free. Regenerative organic really starts people thinking much more about how do we, keep the land or bring it back to the state that it should have been. So we see value in both.
That's great. Thank you so much. Camilla, as a chef and a founder of a company, do you feel something similar to what Suzanne said?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I see the tension across all, and I agree with the bullshit comment, but I also think it's interesting. I actually don't think consumers know what organic means. I don't have a single friend who's my generation who could tell you what organic means, and actually the definition is 3 words. I love asking people, like, test your friends, ask them what organic means, and they go, oh, you know. And I'm like, no, I want to know if you know. So I actually don't give an F. I actually don't care about definitions. I actually don't think it matters, and I think the trajectory of organic going from, it had the same life cycle. It was practices that cared about the quality of food and the future of the food system. We now know very clearly that that is not enough, but it was the first step. And then you saw it popularized without information and knowledge, right? That is the gold standard, even though 90% of consumers, I think, have no clue what it means. So I feel the same about regenerative. I actually don't care if anyone knows what it means. As long as they see it as a tie to a food supply chain that is healthier, that is actually going to last and provide food that we need. And third, where we really lead with is tapping into functional wellness. At Westbourne, we always say the market we're going after is the $1 trillion in supplements. Everyone believes that their health comes from a pill, a powder, a bar, or a beverage. And that's because our food system doesn't have nutrition, which everyone in this room understands. So I do think there's complications and a lot of confusion when it comes to certifications. I think the need for some form of standardization helps at the farm level for ease, it helps at the product level for indication of practices, and it certainly is being driven by the requirement of retailers who can't have every buyer this is regenerative enough, it just doesn't work. But that also has limitations, right? There are a lot of farms. We work with very small farms and consortiums. A lot don't have the ability, the knowledge, the connections to get ROC certified. So a great example, I actually just told Paul and Jen, who's in the audience, we're working with a group in Africa directly. And I said, I will get you through this process. And they're like, what do you know? I'm like, I don't, but I have a friend who does. And we're going to do it. And, we emailed all the auditors. Not one person replied. Complete crickets. So I called Jen and I said, I'm calling in a favor. I need to figure out what we're doing and how we get this group through. They're doing all the things that we want them to do, but they're remote. They are smaller farms that have pulled together. It's not that simple. So, for us, again, I think at Westbourne, we think about bringing together those different sides. But as far as marketing and consumer education, we really lead with functional wellness. And oh, by the way, soil health is connected to that. And as long as someone can make some high level of connection, that's all I care about. I actually do not care whether they know the difference. I don't care whether they know the definition. As long as they see that as the next step and actually organic's not enough and this is the next phase, great.
Thank you. Paul and Greg, if I can come back to you, and it's sort of on a related point. So when we talk about regenerative, we talk about the environmental benefits usually. And, I think there's so much great research coming about the nutrient benefits, and that relates to Camilla's point. How do we get that across to consumers? First, what are we seeing about the nutritional benefits? And then how do we get that across to consumers?
We have a pattern. Because Marion is in the room, I want to disclose my conflicts of interest. I've been trained by reading her newsletter every single day. I'm on the board of the Regenerative Organic Alliance. I lead a business at Patagonia. I'm also on the board of a terrific startup company called Audacious, which I think is part of the answer to your question. I think all of us intuitively understand that soil that's been depleted of life is unlikely to be the most nutritious place to grow our crops. The synthetic fertilizer made from natural gas may make plants grow, but it's not going to have the microbiome of the soil. It's not going to have the nutrition in the soil. So it's sort of intuitively easy to understand, that is not going to be the most healthy food. And it's not surprising if we look at the nutrient density of foods, decades-long decline completely coincides with the rise of the industrialization of our food supply. That's intuitive, but it's been very difficult to prove this. The nutrient fact panel data isn't from the actual food being eaten. It's from some database from 20 years ago. Right. And I think Audacious's CEO, Eric Smith, is in the room somewhere. Where are you, Eric? Perfect. Just disclose your comments.
Planted them in the audience.
And I didn't plant them. And Audacious is basically creating a technology platform connecting the dots between soil health and human nutrition.
Sure.
And that's why Patagonia invested in the company. I think it's going to be the hottest thing over the next 5 years. And I think it's going to be an important part. It's going to be maybe one of the most important levers that we could have for consumers to say, I'm not choosing this because I want to avert a crisis down the road. That's hard for people to do.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to buy the food that's going to make my children healthier.
Absolutely.
And that's the lever that I think is going to do the most to change the food system.
Thanks, Greg.
Can I also just add a note on absorption? Because I also think that, again, we live in a generation that's obsessed with living forever, optimizing everything, and they're turning to all these supplements, but they don't really realize that consuming those vitamins, minerals in actual food is, multitudes better absorption. You're just not, anything you're going to get in a pill pales in comparison to what you're going to get from a piece of produce.
Thank you. Greg.
So I am not thinking on the level of my co-presenters here. I am much more in the trenches and dealing with people one-on-one. So we're a 25-acre diversified farm about 120 miles northwest of here. And we sell at farmers markets in New York City, other places, working with lots of restaurants here, including some of the chefs that you're hearing from tonight. And for me, this discussion about nutrient density comes up when people taste our food. Mm-hmm. So a quick anecdote, someone that's a relatively new customer came up to me at an event 2 weeks ago and intently asked me, why does our food taste different? They said that they've been to farmers markets all over the world, have eaten in some of the best restaurants, meaning that they had a palate, and they really, really wanted to understand why our food tastes different. So that allowed me to launch into the complexities of soil, and that my primary goal is to manage soil. That's my full-time job. My part-time job is growing vegetables. And so that complex of what is happening from the soil to the plant to the humans is basically how our farm functions and how the word gets out that there's something different going on. And I think that literally the proof is in the pudding.
Absolutely.
That the proof is actually in the flavor. And so I can talk about what we do, but then people really understand it when they taste it.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're sadly running out of time. This went faster than I thought it would. Suzanne, I want to talk a little bit with you about how you're leveraging partnerships to build more regenerative supply chains, because none of this works without collaboration.
Absolutely. So, we're actually, first and foremost, lucky enough to grow a majority of our own rice, and we're able to control it. We do have, though, a consortium of growers that we've been working with, gosh, for 25 to 30 years, that we also partnered with to get regenerative organic certified. Again, it was not a heavy lift. The great news was we were already behaving that way. We also are investigating. We do have other products that aren't just plain rice, that have seasoning in them, or you turn them into a rice cake, or you add sugar. And we look to, again, we have a phrase of we want to have impact beyond the farm. So wherever we can actually partner with another ingredient with that certification, because basically what Greg and Paul said, how do you win with the consumer? It tastes better, and you have a claim about nutrient value.
Right.
That's the secret, to the universe. The great news is you pull the planet and climate along, but if it tastes better and has higher nutrient value, game over.
Thank you. Camilla, you're going to get the last word in this minute and a half. How have partnerships worked for you in collaboration?
Oh, I mean, look, I come from the food world as a chef and a restaurateur. That's sort of what we do. It's very much a team sport, and we all help each other tremendously, particularly in the wake of COVID. As a brand, for us, we've seen such an uptick. It's a way to share what we're doing with different audiences. I think where we come at it is doesn't always have to be someone who's, ROA certified. Again, I think we take a little bit broader of a look, but for example, we just did an infusion with our avocado oil with Yuzuko, which is a company out of Los Angeles, and we talked about biodiversity, and the whole messaging around that campaign was one element of regenerative practices so that people can better understand why. We worked with Mad Agriculture last year for one of our holiday products was a cover crop pancake and waffle mix that I used to use at our restaurant. And I called Mad Ag and I was like, I can't find rock certified buckwheat flour. And he goes, weirdly, actually it's funny because I reviewed their audacious report, but they were like this company, Little Bucks, they're in LA, and like their uglies get like milled into flour, and they're sitting on pounds of flour they don't know what to do with. And I was like, that's what I do. So a lot of what we also do is pick up upcycled, discarded. We did a pectin-free, gelatin-free, sugar-free, what we call a butter, like a fruit butter, but it's really a jam that's just natural and good for you. And we used upcycled strawberries from the Ecology Center, which is a regenerative farm and I called them and I was like, what's going out? What aren't you using? What isn't selling at the farmer's market?
Right.
And so we do a lot of collab products like that with, again, Ecology Center, all about biodiversity, extending a season, why they grow things when they do, and helping reach, again, a broader audience outside of, we can ship around the country with that product, whereas they're constrained to, Laguna Beach. So we think about how do we take the small, incredible practices of someone like Greg and what he's doing, and how do we bring that to, hopefully eventually Whole Foods and national distribution.
You're just
Collaboration's key.
Yeah, you're just spreading deliciousness everywhere. What a great point to end on. Please give these panelists a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Round of applause as they leave. Let's keep this energy up. In this next session, we're going to talk about how we tell the stories of regenerative food systems through film, and we have the co-founders of Common Table Creative, Simon and Oliver English. As they settle in, let me thank a few more of our in-kind partners, including Bonterra Organic Estates, Buena Vida Specialty Coffee, and Bear's Fruit. Hello, gentlemen. So nice to see you. Give them a round of applause. I love these guys. So, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Dan.
How's it going?
Do you miss us?
I do, always.
Good.
So you've been collaborating with Lundberg very closely. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Actually, coincidentally, it was last year that we spoke about some of our storytelling that we've done with American Farmland Trust. And our now good friend Roberta from Lundberg is here and reached out to us and said, hey, I love what you guys are doing around storytelling. We would love to tell our story in a new way. Can you guys come up to Richvale and work with us? And so for the past year, we've actually been visiting Lundberg Farms twice. We've got to know Brita and Bryce and the incredible team there. And we've had the privilege of creating new video assets and stories about what they're doing in their whole vision. And we're excited to share that with you today. So this amazing gathering, thanks to you, Danny, and Bernie, and the whole team, was the reason that we ended up creating this whole new video series for Lundberg. And now we're back showing it to you guys tonight.
I love that. That's like a great anecdote. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Simon, we have a clip that we're going to play. Is there anything you want to tell us about it before it rolls?
I think just play it, let it speak for itself.
All right.
Yeah.
Play the clip, please.
At Lundberg Family Farms, we're proud rice nerds, and today we're going to show you every step of the process that goes into making a bag of rice. From the plants,
To the bag.
where'd that come from?
Don't worry about it. Hey, we are out at Cherokee Ranch. This is a field of regenerative organic jasmine rice. Our number one issue in growing regenerative organic rice is weed competition. Do we use herbicides in here to control weeds? Absolutely not. We're using water to manage weeds. The system of using water instead of chemicals is so important in that it's not bringing poisons on the land. It's farming with nature, caring for animals or wildlife, and caring for people. Who wants chemicals on their rice? Who wants to poison their land? For the short term and the long term, this is the way to go.
Cheers.
Before any rice goes in the bag, we test every variety in our research field to make sure it's regenerative organic.
This is Amelia, one of our rice researchers.
Amelia, what do you do out here all day?
We're looking at thousands of different varieties of rice, looking for the best of the best, what is the most compatible for our regenerative organic rice system. We're also looking for flavor, grain quality, and yield.
Most rice farmers develop varieties of rice for compatibility with chemicals. We hate chemicals.
To hell with chemicals.
To hell with them.
Yeah.
After the rice comes in from the fields, but before it goes across the railroad tracks to the mill, we like to make sure we've only got the best of the best. This is Allison, our grain quality manager. Allison, tell the people what you do.
Hey, I am probing every single truck that comes in from harvest and make sure that it's at the quality that we want it to be.
We inspect every truckload by hand, multiple times per truck.
Yep, we're quality freaks. I love that quality freak flag we're flying.
So we're grading this rice. We want to make sure that it hits our quality specs. So I'm pulling out any kernels that are immatures. 17 varieties will come through every truck.
None of it leaves the lab until Allison says it's ready.
We do this for every truckload. After the quality check, but before the rice goes to the mill, it comes here to drying and storage.
This is Steve. He manages the drying and storage.
Steve, tell everyone what's so special about these silos.
We bring in 17 different varieties of rice, and so one of the things that we focus on is keeping fresh product going to our mill for packaging. Other companies use chemicals to treat their rice, and what we do is we use food-grade CO2 to condition our rice, and it's the same food-grade CO2 that you would have in your bubbly water.
After drying and storage, but before the rice goes into the bag, it goes to the mill. This is Mohammed. He runs the mill.
Mohammed, what do you do here?
Yeah, we mill rice.
Wow. Right on.
We have a lot of machines. Every process required a different machine. So we clean it, dehusk it, yeast toner, then it goes through the color sorters, every variety of the rice.
After the mill, the rice comes across the street to be made into rice cakes. We're here with Andrew. He's in charge of snacks.
So I'm Andrew, I'm the snacks manager, so I manage the rice cake operation. So we got about 300 rice cake machines. They're custom built in-house. They use double the rice as our competitors. So that's what gives it a different crunch, a different flavor profile. That's what makes us unique.
I get so excited coming out here to see rice cakes getting popped. You're the man, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Being a rice nerd is so much more than growing quality rice.
It's caring for people, caring for the wildlife and the environment, and caring for the soil. In the words of my grandpa Albert, we're going to leave the land better than we found it. But my grandma Frances used to have the corollary, Albert, don't f it up.
I love this clip. And so, Simon, when we were talking before prepping for this event, you said this clip to you as the office meets sustainability. Why did you choose that approach?
What a creative swing we took there. Because there's no reason that we can't save the world and have a good time while doing it. And Lundberg Family Farms, when it comes to food companies, the companies that are doing the right thing, they're not afraid to show you the why and the how they do it. And for a company to let us come in there with our cameras and run around their facility just shows you the transparency that they have and the trust that they have in what they're doing is the right thing, that they're not afraid to show whatever's happening behind the scenes and whatever's behind that logo. And a lot of companies that are putting the food in the grocery stores nowadays wouldn't do the same. And I think it speaks a lot to the philosophy and just who Lundberg Family Farms are, to just open their doors and let us run around and share exactly what's going on. Everyone in this clip, that was just their work day, and we just popped in for 30 minutes and disrupted what they were doing and maybe, delayed rice from getting to stores in a couple months. Anyways, they are just the coolest people, and it makes me so happy that they're growing food and they're doing everything they can to make the world a better place. And there's no reason that we can't have a good time while saving the planet.
Absolutely, and there's no better example of two brothers having a good time while saving the planet. These men deserve a round of applause for everything they're doing.
Are we?
And I've known them for several years now, and how you're evolving is so great. So congratulations. I think something that stands out for me in the clip is the really special relationship between Bryce and Brita. They're proud rice nerds. They're quality freaks. What was it like to capture that sort of back and forth with them? It's so cute.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right. And their relationship was really the inspiration for the second video. We actually created a first video months ago, and while we made that video and spent a couple of days with their whole team, their authentic interactions and their kind of silliness and clear love they have, and also passion and working together was so clear that we then, for the second video, when it was a little bit more of an extensive, thought out idea, we came back and said their relationship needs to be the focal point of this entire thing. And they've been doing the good work that so many people in here have been talking about for decades and generations, way before it was cool. And their relationship is an epitome of that. And they are an epitome of a multi-generational family who is doing the good work, like Simon said, but also having a good time along the way.
Right.
And you can feel it when you speak to the guy who runs the mill, Muhammad, when you speak to every single person in that company, there is a love and a joy about what they do. And that's the power of food. That's the power of not just growing rice, but they are creating a blueprint for what food companies can be. And that's what we felt when we went there. That's what we felt now that we've gotten to know them. And that particular relationship, and just the being just funny, honestly, is something that, I think we as storytellers and we as a food movement need to do, is to bring more levity and entertainment and excitement and joy into what we do.
More humor, more joy.
More joy, more humor, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because what we do is amazing and what we do is delicious, whatever stakeholder we are in the food world. And that's the difference that we have to make, is to bring joy and love to what we do. And that's what Lundberg represents. And that's what we as storytellers try to bring to the screen, to what we do.
That's great. Simon, do you want to comment any further?
No, you did
You
great.
lifted your microphone, so I was ready.
Just
I was
general
ready.
He'll let you know when he wants to say
yeah.
So
I'll jump in a minute.
I have a question for you. I discussed this with Dan Barber earlier. I think that eaters often feel like they have to sacrifice something to eat, to eat well, and to buy food from farmers they trust. How can we find ways to get them to do that better, to get them to enjoy buying Lundberg rice from Whole Foods or going to their local farmers market?
I mean, honestly, I think it's telling the stories and the why and the how of how these products are made. It's a bonus that doing the right thing for the planet is also the most flavorful. So I mean, it sells itself. These people are doing the right thing. There is a great camaraderie with what they're doing, and the transparency, and it's taking care of the planet. It's making delicious food. I mean, what else are we doing as a species if we're not, protecting that and implementing that into our lives and promoting those values? What was the question?
No, I think you answered it.
Okay.
Like, how can we encourage eaters to want to buy these products in a
we
way?
need to get these voices off the farm. And I mean, we're in a media landscape where everyone's got a television in their pocket, and we need to get these voices off the farm. I said this last year. We need to get these voices off the farm and onto the screens of everyone, because there is so much positivity happening out in these fields that people need to feel it in their homes and know what's happening, because I mean, there is a way out of this crisis, and it can be delicious, and it can be funny, and it can be fun, and it's heartwarming, and I think we'd all sleep better at night knowing that this is all possible, and it's happening, and it's real, and why not support Lundberg Family Farms?
Great. And you mentioned this before. I think at the heart of this, it's really radical transparency. Like you're in the, the factory, the mill. You're in the field.
Yeah.
Can you talk like that doesn't happen to filmmakers a lot.
No, absolutely. And that's really the founding of our company and the genesis of our company. We made a documentary about the future of food called Feeding Tomorrow. And we work with now food companies, NGOs, and nonprofits to tell stories about the future of food and the power of food. And a big part of that for us is visiting farms and telling stories about farmers all over the world. And through our documentary and through our production company, we've had the opportunity to visit over 80 farms now all over the world in the past 7 years. And our goal and our mission is to really tell the story about transparency, where our food comes from, how it grows, how it impacts the world around us, and the people who bring that food to life and work with the earth to steward the land in the production of that food. And for us, that's what we love doing. I think when people have a more clear sense of where their food comes from and the love and energy and passion and all that went into creating a tomato or a grain of rice, they think about that differently. They cook it differently, they enjoy it differently, they don't waste it as frequently.
Right.
And for us, I think Lundberg is the epitome and the embodiment of not just a company that's doing it right, but also as a proven viable economic model for success. This whole thing, this whole regenerative food movement does not work if it is not economically viable.
No market, no mission.
Correct. And so what we do as a storytelling company, our goal and our mission, our goal and our mission is to be the megaphone for the regenerative food movement, the farmers of the world, the people of the world who are doing food differently. And so with our megaphone, we want to increase demand so that farmers feel more comfortable planting. They know that there's a market for what they're doing. And so for us, we love working with folks like Lundberg because we think they are the embodiment of that. And we told Brita and Bryce, like growing up, our mom had brown Lundberg rice in the cupboard. We didn't have like a snacky house. We had like a ingredient house where you had to make your own full meal, which now I'm like, thanks, Mom. That's actually very helpple. But for us, Lundberg, again, is that incredible embodiment, really the pinnacle of regenerative food, family, multi-generation thinking, and also economic viability through multiple different types of products available at the grocery store that we're all familiar with.
Absolutely.
And that are recognizable. So our job as a storytelling company is to amplify the voices of the good people who are doing this every day, as Simon says, whether or not the cameras are there. And we're just lucky enough to spend some time with people like Brita and Bryce and to share their stories.
Round of applause for that. I think what I like most about this clip, and I love Brita and Bryce for sure, but you show the other folks who are working with them. Why was that important to you and to them?
It's so many hands go into making a bag of rice, and you get a bag of rice, and you think it's a bag of rice, but no, it's not. It's the story. It's the water and the waiting and the seeing when the rice is ready They don't use chemicals. They use water. That's difficult. It's really easy to do the wrong thing, and they're continuously, for generations, making the right decision, even though it's harder. They say they farm harder, and they really mean it. They every single day are doing the most difficult thing. I mean, they go by hand, and they go through every single grain of rice to make sure it is up to snuff to put it in their Lundberg bag. Like, people need to see that. Consumers need to see how painstakingly they go over to make sure their product is the best it can be. And not only that, it's delicious and it's good for the planet, and it's I don't know, it's so important to show what's happening. And that's kind of what our whole company is about. Oliver was kind of alluding to this earlier. It's like, a lot of food companies, they sell, the what. They sell the final product. And I think what's really important now is we need to show and sell the why and the how. It's not just about the final product. It's about all the hands that went into it. And Lundberg Family Farms, it's a perfect example of that. We get an applause break? Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to show every aspect of it and to show the real people. It's like I said before, those people we popped in for 30 minutes, shot our little thing, and they went right back to work doing exactly what they're doing when we filmed it. There's no actors, there's no hair and makeup, it's the real deal.
That's great, That's great. In this final minute we have left, I want to ask your advice for other storytellers. It's a difficult time in the world right now, and it's getting harder and harder to tell positive stories. What do you want young storytellers to know, to keep in mind?
Absolutely. And without being overtly political, I would just say that the environment is challenging right now. And truth and facts are fuzzier than they have been in some ways not so much. So what I would just say is we as a food movement have the opportunity, the obligation, the privilege, but really the opportunity to share our own stories in a way that is powerful and true to us and what we believe in. And there has almost never been a more important time, in my view, to control the narrative. And whether you are a food company, whether you're an NGO, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're connected to the world in some capacity or a restaurant, controlling our narrative is vital. And so for us, I think that is so, so important. And to touch on what Simon was just saying, younger generations are increasingly caring about knowing where the food comes from, knowing about the traceability, the transparency, the honest, the true story behind it. So there is an economic incentive here too. But in this crazy media landscape that we are living in, it is more important than ever to control our own narrative. So the investment in stories about the farmers, the love and energy that went into it, the flavor that's created by taking care of your soils, all of these elements that go into creating an ingredient are incredibly important. And the investment into storytelling at whatever capacity, it could be a big production, it could be someone with their phone, but controlling your narrative and showcasing your product in a way that is transparent and honest is vitally important now more than ever. And I think that's what we believe in deeply. And we also believe deeply in the power of stories to transform the way people see the world. Yeah. I think that we are in a very complex political environment right now. So if we can tell stories that bring about a little bit of levity and hope and joy without sugarcoating the reality of the environmental crisis that we find ourselves in, I'm not saying that.
Of course.
But we must be vehicles for positivity and joy. We must be vehicles for love and excitement. And that's what food is about. Food is about community and family and bringing people together around the table. So our stories must reflect that truth. And they can, they will, they should. And that's what this is as well. And that's what Lundberg is all about. And that's what so many of you are all about. So I would just say, whatever capacity, whatever aspect of the food world you are in, whatever part of the stakeholder environment, ecosystem you are in, think about the story that you're telling. And how can we tell a little bit better? That's our obligation. We are all storytelling companies now. I wouldn't have said that 10 years ago, but these days we are. But that is an opportunity to invest in how we share what we do and why we love what we do with the world, with the food we put on the table and how we share it.
An opportunity, an obligation. Thank you both so much for being here. That was a wonderful clip.
Thank
Please
you,
give them
Danny.
a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. To close out the night, we have 2 fireside chats coming up that will look at the role of chefs as change makers. So don't go anywhere. There's going to be more food, more beverages at the reception. And I am excited to now introduce our next guest, Chef J.J. Johnson, the founder of Field Trip. Please give him a round of applause. Looking dapper. Nice to see you.
Always.
JJ, I want to start, while we're talking right now, everyone's going to have a chance to enjoy a bite that you created for us tonight. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
I don't remember what I cooked. No, it's with the rice, of course. So I'm Chef J.J. Johnson. I have a rice bowl shop here in New York City called Field Trip. We have 2 locations in New York. We believe that rice empowers people and rice is culture. So you have a little bit of like coconut sticky rice, some raw tuna from Montauk, a little bit of beanie seed dressing, and it should be really delicious.
I'm sure it is really delicious. Give him a round of applause. It's really delicious. It should be being passed around right now. Can you talk a little bit about rice as culture?
Listen, I mean, I could go around the room and I would say to you, what was a rice dish on your table growing up?
You want to know? It was Uncle Ben's.
No, come on, stop. But it was
I
just
grew up in Missouri.
plain Uncle Ben's white rice or
Mhm.
parboiled rice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean that was your culture. You grew up in.
I grew up in the Midwest. I
Grew
don't know
up
what
in
to tell you.
Midwest.
I'm being honest.
But if we all went around the room, that's how you would understand people's culture, and that's the power. That's how powerful rice is. That it defines our culture. It opens up the floodgates. It tells you about people. I always say, like, if you're traveling somewhere, start with rice.
Yeah.
So if you're going to West Africa, start eating jollof. If you're going to India, start eating biryani. If you're going to California, start eating California white rice. Like, that's where it's from. And And that's the beauty of it. And Field Trip's just a safe space for everybody. We started in Harlem. Everything is under $17. We buy rice directly from farmers. That's what we do.
That's awesome. Thank you. You've been really vocal about chefs taking action on the climate crisis, and I wonder how you became interested in these issues. I'm sure it's from seeing things on the ground and just being a concerned person, but can you share with us?
You know, I look at the food space a little differently, like as a business owner. Also, is like the reason why America's rich or the wealthiest nation is because of agriculture, right? And I think we've lost that in our steps, especially right now. Right. And when you start to see that you can't get, wild salmon anymore, as a chef, you have to be concerned. Or if you can eat strawberries all year round, like that's kind of pointless. Right. So I started to dig a little bit deeper in my soul as a chef and also as a consumer feeding young kids, like my children, saying like, why don't I start having a voice? Why don't I start knocking on doors? Why don't I show up to Congress or the House and start talking and seeing? Because my voice is a lot different. And I feed a lot of different income levels of people at Field Trip. I feed folks, they buy a rice bowl with their last $20. Or in Rockefeller Center, I'm feeding the 1%ers of New York. So, but they all have the same concerns. Where's the food coming from? Why don't I understand what it really means? Like this, what does regenerative really mean? Right? Or why do my eggs cost so much money? But then you're telling me your eggs are $5.69, but my eggs are $5.69. They used to be $1.99. So you had trash eggs. That's why. So I start to dig into there, and I'm trying to let people know that you should eat differently. And I think that being a Black chef, we have to have a voice because we're so connected to the soil.
Right. Your dish is coming out right now. Everyone will get a chance to enjoy it. Crispy rice stick with tuna and bene seed dressing.
Yeah, bene seed dressing. Bene seeds are from South Carolina. They are the mother of the sesame seed. They're instinct. And a mentor of mine through this whole process has been Glenn Roberts at Anson Mills. I cooked at Blackberry Farm one time. I was a chef at the Cecil, and I kind of ran out of Blackberry Farm. Somebody told me that was Glenn. I chased him down. He's on a golf cart. And I was like, hey, Glenn, do you know about this rice grain called glamarima from West Africa? And he like stops his cart. He sits down. He's like, what do you know about that? And that's how my rice journey kind of started. Cool. And he's been a champion of mine on helping me buy rice from the right places.
Yeah, that's great. You talked a little bit about, consumers and chefs not being able to source salmon right now, or eggs being really high in price right now. What other products are you concerned about? What crops will we not be able to source? What is a crop that's important to you as a chef that we will not be able to source if we don't solve the climate crisis?
How do we solve the climate crisis? I mean, I sat with Ted Cruz last year.
I'm sorry.
And it's like, JJ, climate? I mean, it just gets hot sometimes. It just gets cold sometimes. And I was like, okay, if that's how you want to put it, Ted, but like, it's hotter now. Your farmers in your region or in your district are telling you, I'm sitting with them, and they're telling you it's hotter.
Yeah.
And they don't have crop insurance, and they need help. So why aren't you taking that into consideration? Or a farmer in North Carolina is telling me, well, I can't, it used to be 88 degrees. Now it's 108 degrees on some days. Things are just burning out. So I'm not sure. I'm concerned that we're going to lose a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, it is great seeing what Lundberg is doing. And I think they're championing the way with a lot of other farmers doing the same thing. I also work with an small herb farm called Edible Garden, and with their herbs and how they grow in a sustainable way out in New Jersey and in Michigan and Grand Rapids. So, but even to that point, like now you can get basil all the time. Is that the right way to look at farming?
Right.
Right. And are your crawfish farmers actually are they having crawfish? Are they flipping their crop from being a crawfish farmer to a rice farmer? Like, that's the way it used to be.
Sure.
And I think climate has stopped us from being able to do that. And that's really my concern, is that if there was one thing I would ask the government to do, I would probably ask them to say, only eat salmon this time of year.
Right, right.
Only eat corn this time of year, so that we could just catch back up.
Yeah.
I'm not asking them to do anything else, but that's one thing I would love for them to do, because I think it could really change the ecosystem and help the climate a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Changing consumers' mindset about not eating asparagus in January, or any other crop that is really seasonal. How do you use your vehicle as a chef to help consumers sort of understand that seasonality tastes better?
Yeah, I mean, I start with my children because they're the future.
Sure.
And I argue with my kids all the time. Like, my daughter loves strawberries. I'm like, strawberries about to be done. Like, we're an apple season girl. And she's like, no, I want my strawberries and turkey bacon. I'm like, no, you're going to have apples or pears, And then I start to see it rub off on them, because then they'll go to their friend's house and maybe they're a little too boisterous.
Sure.
And they're like, you eat strawberries? My dad said strawberries are out of season. But they're the ones that are going to help the conversation. So I am investing still in the youth, if it's through my children or if it's in the communities that my restaurants are in.
Right.
But it's concerning, and I'm one small. I consider myself like a small mighty voice, but each day I get more and more concerned, because you don't see things on the plate that you used to see,
right.
or you do see things on the plate that you shouldn't see.
Talk about those.
Like you just said, asparagus.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why are we eating asparagus right now? Why is it even in the supermarket?
Right.
Like, it's like super fibrous. The stalk breaks. You have like the little top. Like, it's ridiculous. Why are we talking about acorn squash and butternut squash and delicata and spaghetti? Like, that's where we should be focused on.
Sure.
Yes. Do we all know how to cook that? Does a consumer know how to cook it? Does it take longer? 100%. If you want asparagus, get frozen asparagus, right? That's the freshest you're going to get to it.
Sure.
And I think we're seeing the same thing like on the fish side as well, right? We're seeing more frozen fish and we're seeing fresh fish. Not to say that that's a bad thing, because that is actually the freshest fish that some people can get.
Yeah.
So, I challenge the supermarkets in my communities. In Harlem, we're right across the street from a supermarket, like a C-town. And sometimes I go in there, I'm like, hey, man, where's the collard greens? Where's the Swiss chard? It's like, nobody wants that. I'm like, you're in Harlem. Like, people want that.
Yeah.
So you can challenge your grocery store managers, because they think they're just buying what people want.
Right.
But you can really go in there and say, I want heirloom tomatoes. I guarantee you go there 5 or 6 times in the peak of summer, heirloom tomatoes will start to pop up some way, somehow.
We've been talking a lot about collaboration and partnership tonight, and for chefs to be able to cook seasonal foods, for consumers to be able to buy them, you need to build those partnerships with local farmers and get them into the retail space. How do you do that? How do you build those relationships?
Tell Big Ag to get out the way. Chefs have been supporting small farmers. Every chef in the country is supporting a small farmer. Even if you work in a 100 location restaurant or more, you're supporting some small farmer at some point, and you might have made that farmer a big farmer.
Mm-hmm.
I think now you're starting to see farmers paying attention, or people in the CPG space paying attention to, okay, if I'm coming out with a sauce, and let's say I'm coming out with a barbecue sauce, okay, who can I get my sugar from? Who can I get my ketchup from? Who through all the steps? And then that's how you empower a small farmer, because now they're going to help you produce this product, and then maybe you then can get into the supermarket. And that's how I think of like collaboration,
right,
versus just having your recipe. You show up to the co-packer, and then they source it from a price perspective, but you might get the same price if you called a farmer
Right.
that you know or heard
Right.
of to help you make that product.
Right.
And for me, that's how I look at collaboration from a chef perspective. As more and more chefs are getting into the CPG space or products in general. And then from a grocery perspective, I hope places like Kroger and Whole Foods and Amazon and Meijer kind of step up to the plate and say, let me think about who's in my community from a farming perspective, especially like Meijer. Like there's so many farmers in Michigan. So should we, can we do more than just a local program? Can I help them start here and then introduce them to my friends at another quote unquote big box,
right.
so they can get there too? Because if you keep losing small farmers, climate will go away real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about, not really wanting to talk to policymakers in that conversation with Ted Cruz, but I know your work has really been, with the James Beard Foundation and others, really trying to advocate in Congress because they listen to celebrity chefs, and that's what you are. You're somebody they respect. What does that feel like when you're, in their offices trying to get this stuff across?
It is interesting. I was literally just there last week talking about the Family Act, right? And that they're bringing back. They're going to try to pass and realize it's from 1950, and which is ridiculous. And all of them, there's a lot of DC chefs with me, and they all go to their restaurants. And they were like, oh, so did you guys bring food? And I was like, why would we bring food if you can't pass the bill? Why would we just show up with free stuff?
Damn, that's brazen.
Right? And so it's the same thing. It's like, start treating them like influencers. Show up to my restaurant, take a picture and post. I give you some free food. We need you to pass some things.
Right.
And I talked to Chuck Schumer about SNAP, and I was like, we should set up a model here in New York so people don't have to just eat at bodegas anymore or just these grocery stores. What about if you can eat in your zip code? It would be a 30% impact on restaurants,
right.
like mom and pop shops, small restaurants, where they would see a 30% increase if you could use your SNAP at Field Trip or Make My Cake or, Melba's, right?
Sure.
Versus going to the bodega and they're like, you need a turkey sandwich? All right, ring up the milk and then I'm going to give you the turkey sandwich, right? So to make sure you can eat. It's like, why are we still putting everybody in this square?
Right.
And let's look at it as an economic bill versus we're just feeding people. But then you realize that SNAP is so connected to big ag. So it's like you're giving them the money to then go into the grocery store to buy what they're producing. And that's a way from a collaboration to be like, okay, if I slide in now small agriculture, they become big agriculture and climate gets better. We then produce food that's better for people.
Right.
And maybe restaurants one day, they can go swipe their SNAP card at a Danielle restaurant and treat their family, right? Why not?
Right.
So it's just a different way of how we should start to think about the food system. And that's what I chip away with when I'm there, especially during this administration, is trying to look at things more from an economic lens than from a feel-good lens.
Yep.
Because they don't care about feel-good stuff.
Not really.
But so it's okay, let's make it about economics. And then maybe they will pass it. And then it will benefit everybody here.
Yeah, that's such a smart way to think about it. We should all sort of be following your lead on that. I feel like our whole conversation has been a call to action, but in this minute we have left, anything you want this audience to take away and do tomorrow when they wake up?
I don't know. This audience are the people that are doing things. If it's in their small communities or they're in their large communities, they are changing the way people eat. I see friends in the crowd. I see people I admire. I just think keep doing what you do.
People listening online who might not know,
People listening online that don't know, don't give up. Don't think you don't have a voice. And I think starting at the community level is really key. If you live in a city, get on your community board, show up to the community meetings, figure out why the farmers markets are only one day a week, figure out why those farmers are there. Maybe you don't want those farmers there. I don't know, right? But it is I learned that in Harlem, I go to a community board meeting once a month just to see what's going on in my community, because then you're trying to figure out why things aren't happening and the wrong people are showing up. And the right people are at home trying to fight the big battles, but you can start with the little battles right in your community.
Yeah, start at home. Give it up for Chef J.J. Johnson. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. You too. All right, we're now going to turn to our final conversation with Chef Marcela Valladolid, a best-selling author and the founder and CEO of Matriarcha Foods. Give her a round of applause. Nice to see you. I'm so happy that she's here. So, yeah, give her a round of applause. It's great.
Everybody has thanked Roberta tonight, so I'm going to thank Roberta too, because I've been with the Lundberg guys for a little bit.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Roberta's great. Give it up for Roberta.
Yes.
All right, Chef, let's start with the reason that you started Matriarcha Foods. It's very personal. It's very deep for you.
Yes. Is this close enough? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So Matriarcha Foods started as a very personal need for me to be able to create the foods that I grew up with. I grew up on the south side of the border. I grew up in Tijuana, Mexico. And I would cross the international border to go to school every day in San Diego. And because we're in northern Mexico, we had no access to organic foods like they do in central Mexico, where there's still, avid farming, obviously, and all these things. And I was just 20 years in the making, this brand, just thinking about how frustrating it is that in my travels through Mexico, I have families all over Mexico, to not be able to reproduce the foods that I grew up with in just a clean way because I wanted to feed my kid. That was the goal.
Sure.
So back in the day, 1996, I think they opened the first Whole Foods in La Jolla. I would cross the border with my newborn Fausto, who's now 21, to try and source organic ingredients on the U.S. side of the border to create my organic foods in Mexico, which is just crazy if you think about it. That I was crossing the international border to be able to feed organic to my child. So I would supplement, and I would get the food from Whole Foods and cross the border back into Mexico and go to the Mercado Hidalgo and buy chiles and all the things that I used for cooking and try to recreate those meals. And obviously there's a lot of organic food brands in the market now, but I still felt there was a white space for what I call the building block ingredients. I will never create something that you open it and you eat it. I want to inspire people to cook. So that's why all of the products in the catalog are building blocks or finishers or something that will inspire you to cook and me to make it better.
Yeah, that inspiration is so key. It sparks that creativity that you want in home cooks like me.
Completely. It was born out of necessity. And it has become, I had a company before, was called Casa Marcela, and it was actually very successful. I was bringing artisanal product from Mexico with the same idea to highlight artisanal work from Mexico. And the reason I changed the name to Matriarcha is because I wanted it to separate from the brand. I didn't want the pressure.
Sure.
And then I realized that, no, Matriarcha is about us. It's about me. It's about the moms.
Yeah.
We're the ones making all the choices for the homes. We've got all the power, the Latina moms and their purchasing power. We know all these stats. And Matriarcha is about me. It's about us.
I love it. I love it. There's going to be a dish passed around for everyone in the audience to enjoy. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Of course. You're going to get a waffle that is made with land-raised corn masa harina, and it's topped with a fried quail egg, some smoked salmon, and some salsa macha, which is not mine because they sent it to the wrong place. But that's okay. What I wanted to and it was like the best part, but that's okay. Everything happens for a reason, and it was for me to focus on the land-raised masa harina, which is so important too. Corn is the lifeblood of Mexico.
Yeah.
And I think everybody in this room knows the issues with GMO corn and corn dumping. And honestly, that's not my specialty, but I know a lot about it just because of Matriarcha. And land-raised corn that we source in the Yucatan, our corn specifically is called Nal Soy, NAL-XOY. The same name it's had since Mayan times. And it is so hard to get people to understand what they're missing or the comparison from eating a land-raised corn grown in the limestone-rich soil of the Yucatan compared to conventionally grown, genetically modified corn. Corn product, tortilla product, like tortillas or tortilla chips or soft or the tacos. We don't eat those in Mexico. The crunchy taco shells,
Sure.
those things. It's something like a $20 billion market in the U.S. And people have no idea that the only ingredients that need to be in a corn-based product that pretends to be a tortilla or a tortilla chip are just two, which is the corn and slaked lime. That's it. And the slaked lime is so important because it is the key ingredient for the process of nixtamalización, which makes all of the nutrients bioavailable to your body. And it's like not even apples and oranges. It's like apples and plastic.
Wow.
And the nutrient density there, you guys were talking about nutrient density and the power of keeping nutrients in the soil. The masa harina that you're eating has literally been passed down from generation to generation to generation, and it was hard for us to secure that production. Very hard for us to secure that production, and I drove my partners crazy in Mexico. But we got it, and you're eating it.
That's great. Well, on that point, what kind of messaging do you find most effective when you're trying to get eaters to eat products that are new to them?
Yes.
Not new to the world, but new to them.
Well, I'm going to have to pivot on that question because, I'm going to start this by kind of showing off a little bit because we had our first drop of Matriarca at the beginning of this month. And we had a inventory that was supposed to last us a month, and it lasted 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
And the reason that happened, or what it proved to me, is that my community, because I know my numbers, I know my stats, and it's mostly the Latina community that follows me and purchases my product.
Sure.
Are so desperate for these products.
Yeah.
So I don't even need to educate my current consumer on what to do with this product. For them, it becomes an immediate connection and a badge of honor to something they've been looking for forever.
It tastes like home.
It's home. And the goal for Matriarca, obviously, is to widen that footprint and to find, it's very difficult. In Mexico, it's something like 20 million metric tons of chile are grown each year, and 0.01% of that is organic. And for Matriarca to track it down and put it in your matcha, you have no idea what that looked like for us logistically. Like, it was insane. But we did it. And I'd be lying if I told you it was hard to convince my consumer to try this product because they've been looking for it forever.
You're meeting their need.
Forever. And I love that we're in this time now. I was telling Philip, who's the father of my kids and also my partner and agent and all of the things, that it's, as a person that has a social media platform, you have to be really careful now, and I love it because I post something and my followers ask me, is it clean? Where does it come from? Is it organic?
Oh, that's
is
great.
it regenerative? Like, questions I wasn't getting. When I was crossing the border to get organic food from Whole Foods in 1996, people thought I was crazy. Like, exagerada. Like, you're so it's not that big a deal. Just give them a Gerber. And I was like, no, I'm gonna make it from scratch. But now it's almost demanded of you, and I love that for me. I love that for my community.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you do lead with deliciousness and health, but you're interweaving environmental sustainability into all of your messaging. That's, you're taking people on a path, and that must be exciting for you and for them.
Yeah, I said from the beginning, and I had to sit my partners down at some point and told them almost, half of the investment is going to be in the food and the production. I said, and almost the other half of the investment is going to be in education. And really, tomarlos de la mano, taking people by the hand and telling them, no, this is the difference in that tortilla and this tortilla. And this is the difference in this chile and this chile. And not just from the perspective of it not being riddled with pesticides, but from a flavor standpoint as well. Amorita chile grown, organically in, the foothills in the town in the outskirts of Mexico. This can taste much better than anything you can find in a conventionally grown field.
Right. And just taking people on that journey, getting them to understand it.
Completely. And being gentle with it. And I say this all the time, like at some point someone is going to grab a picture of me getting a Happy Meal from the drive-thru.
Sure.
Right? Like I'm a mom. And I'm not talking about everybody being like a savior. I'm talking about we have to be able to have a choice though. I needed to be able to have a choice. And that's why I built Matriarca, because my community, I mean, we're not doing so well. Like that's another panel that we need to be on. But the Latina community, in terms of disease, obesity, prediabetes, all these, the numbers are not good for my community specifically. And that's why Matriarca was born. For that reason.
Yeah. No, thank you for creating it. You have said to me that you're trying to be mindful about scaling sustainability.
Yes.
What does that look like to you, and why is that such an important part of what you're feeling right now?
Yeah, it's very clear to us that right now we have 10 products in the catalog. And it's very clear to us that less than half of it we can, mass produce.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, money's great, pays the mortgage, like it's amazing, but that's not the drive here. The drive here for me is kind of just to spread information and health through the brand. So chiles are very important, but this is really important. Like when I launched Matriarca, I have to be honest, I wasn't thinking about the farmers. I wasn't.
Right.
I was literally, the conversations with my partners were, we just have to source clean, organic, nutrient dense, landrace, criollo, ancestral, like that's what we were looking for. And this has all happened very quickly, but in the last few months, we've realized that because there are certain products in the line, like our salsa matcha, which everybody knows salsa matcha now, like the New York Times did a whole thing on salsa matcha, chicharrón de chile, which is a slow fried chile, jalapeno chile in olive oil, packed in olive oil, and our landrace mazarina, for example, like those are the products that we know that we can mass produce. And it is amazing that the response from farmer has been, oh my God, thank you for giving us a reason to go back to producing organically.
Wow.
or using our ancestral methods to go back to growing chiles the way my father used to grow chiles. We have, coming in January of 2026, one of the products that I'm going to end up being the most proud of is a tea blend. But it's made out of medicinal herbs grown in the chinampas, and I'll tell you what a chinampa is in a second, that is in Xochimilco outside of Mexico City. Chinampas are floating gardens that have existed since Mayan times. And they literally, it's like the most gorgeous, you feel like you're in heaven when you're there. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced in my life. Floating gardens and next to the lagoon. And by process, they dig out all of the mud from the lagoon. They build a small pit and they use the mud to grow just the seedlings. And then they transfer to larger fields. Our tea blend is going to come from there.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it's just, Matriarca is just about me traveling Mexico and finding these people. And to go back to your questions, because Philip always tells me I talk too much.
You're wrong, Philip.
No, I do. I get nervous and I ramble. Like, it is what it is.
I'm keeping you on track.
Yes, it's the goal has been finding people or farmers or co-producers, knowing that some of them will be able to create enough product. We don't want to stress them. We don't want to stress the production line. We want to keep the methods ancestral when possible. And that's Matriarca. Some things will be small batch, and some things, knock on wood, you'll be able to find nationwide.
Well, what I love about it is it's this mutual collaboration, but it's like this mutual opportunity and
Yes.
success that you're creating for both sides.
Yes, like I said, it wasn't part of the business plan.
Right, right.
It wasn't. But me being down there and speaking to them and meeting them, and what it does for their communities and what it does for their families, and more even than that, it's the pride that they feel for them, that there's interest in that in the USA. That we're creating a product that grew on their land with their hands, with their methods, passed down from generation to generation, and that can even exist in the supermarket in the United States of America. Like, that's a great conversation to have.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Chef, I've been asking everyone to leave the audience with a call to action. Anything come to mind to you?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the tortilla. And I already told you what the 3 ingredients are that need to exist in a tortilla. And my call to action, just to create kind of awareness, is that next time that you're in the supermarket sourcing any tortilla-based product, that you turn it around. And if it has more than those 2 or 3 ingredients, if they add salt or water, put it back and grab something that only has those 3 ingredients.
What a great call to action. Thank you so much. You're a wonderful storyteller.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bigger round of applause, please. Thank you.
And thank you to Lundberg Rice for inviting me. I love you guys so much.
Thank you. Whew, what a great evening this has been. I want to take a moment to thank all of our speakers and who've joined us throughout the night. Please give them a round of applause. Another thank you to Lundberg Family Farms, our host, WNYC, and their crew for producing such a flawless program, and our culinary partner, Great Performances. Thank you to the entire Food Tank team, including Bernie Pollock, Emily Payne, Elena Seeley, Kenzie Wade, Jessica Levy, Jared Kaufman, Elena Morris, Haven Worley, and the amazing volunteers we have had tonight. Thanks to all of you in the audience as well. Round of applause. I love Rita Lundberg, so I just need to say that again. So give her a round of applause.
I love Danny. Don't we all love Danny?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any
Truly.
words you want to leave us with?
I just want to reflect on this evening. Wow, what an evening. And just come back to hope, right? And what it means and why it matters. You know, my dad says that hope is not a strategy. It's not because he does not believe in hope. It's not because he's a pessimist. I think you can tell he's a pretty optimistic, hopeful guy. But I think it's because he agrees with the professor and environmentalist David Orr, who says that hope is a verb with its sleeves rolled up. And I love that because, and I loved what what Dan Barber said about how we need the farmers and we need the poets, right? My dad is the farmer. I kind of tag along, but I studied poetry in college. And one of my favorite poets, Mary Oliver, describes hope as a fighter and a screamer. And of course, Emily Dickinson says hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And hope, I think by nature, exists in opposition, right? But like everybody we heard from tonight, it fights, it screams, it sings, it has its sleeves rolled up, and it never stops at all.
That was beautiful. I'm going to cry. Thank you. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Tonight. And eat and drink more, please.
And stay hopeful.
And stay hopeful.